Hi, I'm Devon Teuscher. I'm a principal dancer with American Ballet Theatre. This is my pup, Riley. Mwah. And we're here to answer some questions today. I think one of the biggest tips for aspiring dancers is to remember how much you love dance and find the joy in it. Growing up, my mom and I had a motto that was, you can keep doing it as long as it's fun. Of course, there are always times where it's going to be hard and difficult and it hurts and it's kind of not fun, but in general, I feel like I was always able to think about that motto and think about how much joy dance does bring me and how much I love dancing. And so at the end of the day, that was a real driving force for me, and I hope that other dancers can really remember that and remember that the joy of dance is really what's most important. Another tip I would give dancers is to really stay focused on yourself. It's really easy to kind of look around and see what other people have and see what other opportunities people are receiving and to see how other people are progressing. And it's just important to remember that we are all different and everyone's journey and path is different and no one is the same. It's important to kind of remember that and remind yourself that you are special and unique and that your path does not have to be the same as everyone else's. Keep your focus kind of more on yourself and less on others. The next question is, how do I stay motivated when I'm stuck inside? So this is really hard. I've actually been really thinking about kind of what motivation looks like to me. I define motivation. I feel like so often my motivation is defined by a goal. I have a performance coming up and that's where I'm motivated to work towards that and towards that performance or towards just some sort of goal. And so I feel like I'm trying to kind of reevaluate what motivation looks like and looking at how motivation looks in the long term versus just kind of what motivation looks like immediately. So for me, a lot of my motivation while I've been stuck inside has come from the fact that, I feel like I will feel better in the long term if I take these baby steps now. So it's a lot about just like getting up and doing one exercise, and then that'll kind of motivate me to do all of my exercises. So I am very much the believer that's just like one step at a time, and these baby steps will lead to big, greater things. So yeah, really assessing what motivation looks like to you and feels like to you is important, and kind of figuring out how you see motivation and how you kind of work best. But so for me, I really have found baby steps.
Riley, can you help me understand what keeps you motivated every day? Huh? Like, how do you stay motivated to sleep so much? I'm like, how do you stay motivated to be so cute? It's quarantine. You're not supposed to be that cute and not motivated.
My daily quarantine routine has varied. Generally, I've been trying to stick to a routine of I get up and I take my little poochie, Riley, you say hi? I take him on a nice long walk. We go out and walk in the neighborhood with our mask on. And we take a good long walk and then come back, and I have been doing little workouts online with friends just to connect with friends but also stay active. So that's been fun. I've been doing those, and then usually I'll do my PT exercises because I'm actually currently injured, so I'm just trying to recover from that. So I have a lot of PT exercises, so I'll do that. And I just started taking ballet class last week, which was really exciting. So I started taking online classes with ABT. We have a Zoom class every day. So I've been doing that. ABT has been holding their National Teacher Training Curriculum course. So I've been doing that every day, and that's taken up a couple hours in the afternoon. It's been really fun to learn more about teaching, and hopefully it'll make me a better teacher. I feel like I am learning so much from this course, and it's just amazing and incredible. Then I take my Riley out on another long walk. We do a lot of walking and squirrel hunting, and then come back home and make dinner and hang out with Corey, and we just sometimes we'll turn on the radio or turn on some music or turn on a show and just kind of hang out and for the night and then head to bed. But also some days I haven't done any of it really. Some days I've been kind of unmotivated and like not gotten up and done much, and I've tried to be really okay with that and tried to be kind of kind to myself and let myself feel okay with not being like on a schedule and super productive every single day. I think that it's important to let ourselves feel that sometimes and let ourselves feel okay with not being go all the time. We've never experienced something like this before, and so I think it's important to stop and like recognize how we're feeling. And if we're just on such a strict schedule, sometimes we forget to assess our feelings. Just being kind too, trying to stick to a schedule, but then also some days it doesn't happen. That's okay. Do you want to tell me a little bit about your quarantine schedule? Maybe like, what is it? Like sleep, wake up, we walk. Squirrels? Oh, yeah, we do see those occasionally. And then what? More sleep? I think for me personally, I love ballet class. I always have. I'm kind of a nerd. I like adore the bar and I adore getting to be in class every day. So I have always loved working in class. A lot of times I like to kind of think about the roles that I'm going to do and try and like think about that during class and how I can apply those different things that I'm learning throughout in the roles into class. And I'm kind of constantly evaluating my technique and making sure I haven't created any bad habits or started to do anything weird. And so I'm constantly trying to evaluate that and work on those things in class. Also, another tool I like to use is I like to really use visualization, and I think it's such a huge help, and I think it's really important. Like when I'm doing my calf raises, I often like to think about I'm doing my 32 flattes in Swan Lake and Black Swan. It really fires your muscles in a different way and it gets your brain kind of active and working in a different way. Mostly I do that in exercises that are supplemental, but visualization is huge and it's super important, and it can help you kind of work in a more constructive way. The next question is it important to practice every day? It's very important to practice a lot. I'm kind of a workaholic and I love practicing and I love rehearsing and I love dancing and I just like love what I do. So that's really lucky. It doesn't feel like work most of the time. But also just I am very adamant about I always give myself at least one day off. For me, I take Sunday as my day off. Just growing up, that was a religious day for me, so it was very much about kind of spiritual rejuvenation, which I still feel I very much cherish. You know, I work so hard on my physical strength throughout the week and every other day that I think it's important to rejuvenate your mind and take time for your spirit and your mind to be rejuvenated. And so I always take one day off a week. I try and make that Sunday, but if that doesn't happen, I try and take one day off a week. I think it's important for your brain and for your body specifically as well. But other than that, I'm in the studio almost every other day of the week and I love it. And I think, yeah, it's great. Keep practicing. Next question is, how do I find a work-life balance? And is that a struggle? I definitely feel like it can be a struggle sometimes to find the proper work-life balance, especially because I do love what I do so much. So I feel like it's sometimes easy to get like so swept up in my work and in what I'm doing because I just adore it. So I think it's important to like take time and find that balance. And I think having friends that are outside of that are really important and can kind of ground you and level you and keep you kind of sane. And I think also for me, it's important to have Riley and have him to kind of, you know, he keeps me like thinking about something other than myself and then other than the work. And he keeps me really thinking about him and about his needs, and I just love him so much, and like going outside and running around with him is my favorite thing. So that is how I find a good balance, is doing things that I love outside of my work as well. The next question is, do I ever struggle with body image? I definitely struggled in the past with some body image. When I was younger, I was told I was too tall. I was also told I was told I had thunder thighs, actually, from a doctor. So I was aware that I was taller and potentially had more muscular legs than other dancers. So this was something I was always in the back of my head. And so, I was always aware of those factors, that I was taller. And I think that I definitely struggled with those a lot. But more recently, I have begun to be able to let go of those things and recognize that those things are actually some of the things that make me really beautiful and make me really special and unique. That I am a taller dancer, and that I am a muscular dancer, and that I have these qualities that allow me to move in such an incredible and unique and special way.
Hey, Rice. Can we talk about body image for a bit? How does it make you feel when your mom gives you a at-home haircut during quarantine? When she kind of only got half of your back leg here. I don't know. Okay.
So the next question is, how do I recover? So I think for me, a big part of recovering is taking time for myself to really process what has happened. I like to journal a lot after a show, or even before a show. I like to journal a lot. It helps me kind of get my emotions out and kind of direct my thoughts. So that's a good way to recover emotionally. And then also just physically, I love a hot bath. I think those are really great after a long day. Epsom salts, hot bath, it's the way to go. I use a lot of Epsom salts. The next question is, what's the hardest thing I had to come back from, and how did I do it? So I've actually been quite lucky. I've had very few injuries throughout my career, knock on wood. So I haven't had to deal with too many injuries. The worst injury I had was a calf pull, and I was in the corps de ballet, and it happened just through overwork. But it was a pretty bad calf pull, and it put me out for almost a couple months. I would say up to 6 months potentially. And I came back from it, and I tried to come back a little too quick, and that's why actually it took longer than it did. But it was one of those things that it stayed with me until, for years. It really honestly kind of haunted me until a couple of years ago, when I feel like I finally was able to conquer that fear of constantly feeling like I might re-pull my calf again. And anytime I would feel it would tighten, I'd get really nervous and I'd back off. But just a couple of years ago, I really started to strengthen them and work in a different way. And so I feel like I was able to overcome that fear. And I feel like a lot of injuries are so emotionally tied and so much about fear of what happened or what could happen. And so I feel like really overcoming the fear of those things is the most important part about returning to dance after an injury.
The next question is about doubts and about if it'd be easier to kind of just give up sometimes. And I definitely feel like I have felt this. For me, I felt this a lot when I was in the corps de ballet and I was working so hard and doing every single show and also doing a lot of soloist roles. It's just too hard. I don't know if it's going to happen for me. As a principal dancer, that was a real thing that I felt I never knew if that was possible for me. So there were definitely a lot of times where I considered, I can go to college and I can get an education and I can do other things. But what always kept me is, like what I said in the beginning, about remembering why I love to do it. And remembering that, in general, I really love what I do, and I have so much fun dancing, and I have so much fun being in the studio and working on those things. So I think if you can constantly kind of remind yourself and think about why you are doing it and why you're dancing and why you love what you're doing,
I think that's really helpful to remain working and remain working hard. Tips for dancers going on their first company auditions. I think just honestly, again, what I talked about before, really focusing on yourself and not kind of looking around too much. I remember going on summer intensive auditions and going in and seeing people, you know, like stretching with their leg to here and like kind of doing all these crazy stretches, and I was like, oh gosh, I like can't do that, I can't do that, I can't do that, I can't do that. So I remember being really like intimidated and scared just by looking around at other people. And so I think it's important to kind of like put your your like blinders on and go in and just like focus on yourself and not look around too much, and like you go enjoy your time and you dance and you do the best that you can do, and like not let everyone else kind of get to you. So I think that if you're doing kind of a big company audition, that is the best way to go about it. Have fun and do your best and not think about other people too much.